Do we have too much government?
We need to put people ahead of corporate profits.
This system is so lopsided.
This threat is a real threat to democracy.
And I think that's really important. That's something we haven't been doing in this country for a long time.
Where do you start? What do you do? How do you do it?
Access to Democracy and other Eagan community television programming is supported by Thomson Reuters, makers of Westlawn Next and based in Eagan. Through Westlawn Next and other innovative online services, Thomson Reuters is the world's leading source of intelligent information for businesses and professionals. Online at thomsonreuters.com. And by U.S. Federal Credit Union, the member-owned financial institution offering service, value, and experience you can trust to the greater Twin Cities community.
And we're back with Access to Democracy. And we're back with one of our favorite and most frequent guests, Rick King, the COO of Technology for Thomson Reuters. And the topic today is a man who wears many hats. Let me tell you a little bit about Rick, because he is the personification of a corporate executive who believes in civic involvement. Let me just run down a few things. Municipal Airport Commission, member. Trustee, Minnesota Public Radio. Board of Trustees, Minnesota Science Museum. Advisory Board, the Carlson Global Institute, Carlson School of Management at the University of Minnesota. Institute of the Chinese Program at the University of Minnesota, and very active with the Chinese program here in Thomson Reuters. Picked as one of 200 people to watch in the nation in terms of corporate executives by Twin Cities Business. Governor's Technology Advisory Council, and former chairman of Governor Pawlenty's High-Speed Broadband Council. And on the seventh day he rested. No, that's...
on the seventh day he works.
When do you have time to work with all these involvements that you have? And I know you're running around the world half the time.
Yeah, the employees, I have great people working for me and with me all around in the company, and a lot of them are here in Minnesota. As you know, we've got 7,500 people here, and there's 16,000 technology people around the world in the company, Thomson Reuters. So it's good, and people are really good about getting done what they need to do. And I think without some of that activity, I wouldn't be able to do the things outside. But I think that our job is to give people the leadership, the vision, the direction, and verify where we're going and things like that. But we also have to be out talking the community, giving back to the community. It also helps us to recruit people in that way too. So, I think being out there helps people see what you do, learn what you do, and actually you get a lot of people that then maybe they want to be part of your team.
I've said to people, do you know Rick King? Inevitably they say yes. Not everybody says they know Thomson Reuters. I say, the company that bought West Publishing. Oh, yes. It's so you have really done a great PR job in that regard. And I understand, because of all the technicians and technology people that you have here, that they do holograms of you and they show them in various locations. So that's one of the ways you can be in so many places at one time.
Someday I hope that we'll be able to use the transporter beam like they do on Star Trek, because it'd be a lot easier than flying around all the time. And maybe Delta can figure out how to fix that. But anyway, in the meantime...
If they do, they'll charge for it.
Well, I hope so. But I hope so. But it'll save a lot of fuel. We do have to get around a bit, but we also use the technology now more than ever to get around. So we have, which is almost like the holographic image that you talk about. We have images that are very high definition where we can communicate on two-way video like a real-time conversation between multi-points of our business, so we don't always have to go there. So that helps us a lot.
One of the things I have to say, though, you are a person who has foresight, and you were one of the people who envisioned the fact that a public-private partnership which is what this facility is with the city of Eagan, could be a money saver for both of you and could be run much more efficiently. And it is, it does, and it has been as we start our 4th year of this. Now, why aren't there more public-private partnerships of corporations and cities and municipalities?
Well, I think it all starts out with relationships, Alan. I think that a lot of the cities that bigger corporations are in have a very transactional relationship. When we as a company might need something, we go to the city and get it, and when the city needs something, they come to you. You don't spend a lot of time understanding each other's requirements or each other's actual problems. And so when you do understand a little bit more and get a little in depth with people, then the idea of something that they need and something that you need can be figured out. And in the case of this facility, we were looking for a better video location for ourselves for internal work. So meanwhile, we're doing that, and Eagan and Burnsville split up their community TV studio. Burnsville goes to the high school at that time. I don't know if they're still there, but then Eagan says, we need a place. Now, all it had to be is that both of those facts, right? And once you do that...
And Tom Hedges, who was also the former administrator, who was also a visionary in terms
Absolutely.
of...
So first you start with the idea that there's a need, then you go to the trust part. And, would you actually think of the city manager or the city administrator at a city, the kind of person you could approach and make a deal? And does the city council encourage those kind of creative solutions to problems that they have? Well, the thing about Eagan is, yes, Tom Hedges, you go to, the new city administrator I will go to. I know also that the city councilors behind and the mayor are very interested in doing things that are path blazing, and that make sense, that are win-wins in the partnership. So I know on their end they're interested, and they know on my end we're interested. So we could do any number of things because of that. I think the thing is, how do we get these people together? They've got to get together beyond the transaction and share a little bit of the vision, as you say, what they want to do.
Don't you think that in a lot of cases there's a suspicion of one on the other, suspicion of the corporation as to what are they going to do, what are they looking for, what are they in this for, and then suspicion of the corporation, can we work with these elected officials and things like that, which we didn't have here, which resulted in this terrific facility, certainly state-of-the-art, a high definition, a wonderful control room and everything else,
right.
And you utilize it and the city utilizes it, as we're doing now.
Well, as you said, 4 years in, both of us got everything we thought and more out of it. I think it's back to basic understanding. When you say there's suspicion is only created because there's lack of understanding. Because if you suspect something, it means you think but you're not sure. Well, you want to be sure. If I'm going to go into a partnership with somebody, I want to make sure they're going to be a good partner. Now, they're either going to be a good partner or they're not. I shouldn't suspect they're going to be either. I should determine that I think they are. And in order to do that, first I want to know, why do you think this is good for you? I'll tell you why it's good for me. Are the values aligned? Are we going to deal with each other directly? And, we might be a little tentative the first time out because we haven't done this before and we're actually kind of carving a new path, but we trust. Trust is a big piece of it.
And I think this new path was the first television facility of its kind in the country, which was a public-private partnership. Now, I understand that there are a few more that have been modeled on this since then, but tell us what Thomson Reuters has gotten out of this, and then explain what the city can get out of it.
Yeah, I remember that it was the only one, and they went to a lot of the community TV associations and talked about the story. I'm surprised that it hasn't taken off more substantially. I'm always surprised by that.
I am too.
And to go even further than that, there's a lot of municipalities that do partnerships with neighboring communities for different kinds of facilities, and I applaud them, and I think we ought to do actually a lot more of even that than we do today. Companies do private-to-private partnerships for a lot of things. They do business dealings that way. Why is it that public-private is not actually taking off? Because the opportunities are just incredible there. What we've gotten out of this, it so happens that the use patterns kind of sync up with this. We do a lot of our video work in the morning because we find that the time that we can get the most eyeballs live with anything we produce is in the morning. Now, we're always going to miss somebody, so we always have a replay option. But in the morning, we can get the European community and we can get the Americas. Now, we sometimes adversely...
It's later in the day in Europe, but a 6 or 7 hour differential means if you start here at 9, they're talking about 3 in the afternoon.
And that's about, that combination of those continents would be about 75% of our employees. The 25% that are in Asia are going to see it on replay. But if you flip the times too much, you start losing more. So you lose a bigger percentage of people. So we like the morning. The communities tend to like the afternoon and the evening. So the people from the community who want to use the facility, or shows like this, tend to happen in the afternoon. It doesn't 100% happen that way, but I'd say 95% of it does, so the times sync up. We use it for a lot of internal communication, some of our external shoots as well, and we also give it to some of the charitable organizations to use it to do some of their own work so they don't have to rent studio time somewhere and use their valuable funds.
And in addition to that, the city of Eagan has 4 employees, staff employees, who are permanently quartered here. You utilize those employees and their expertise, which of course saves Thomson Reuters, and at the same time they're available for city work also.
Absolutely. No, that was all part of our agreement. We furnish the location, we help with the equipment, they have the employees, they do the balance of the equipment. It all works out pretty well, and if we need something, I think we wanted to increase the number of monitors that were in the actual studio, and we look at that and we try to help out wherever we can with upgrades and things like that. And it's been a very fair arrangement. The city staff are great here. When they're here so often, you forget that they're not part of your team. They happen to be badged from the city instead of from our company, but they come around and they can see everything that's going on. We've had great success using them for our videos, and that's all part of the arrangement. So we've been able to tap their expertise a lot. Every other month, I do a broadcast from here for all the technology people in the morning, and that crew's here was at 7 o'clock setting up, and at 7:30 we fire up the cameras and off we go.
And is it fair to say that it has been a money saver for the 2 entities?
Absolutely. I think what I would think of is if you thought of, normally we'd each pay 100% of a project, and so that would be 200% of the money got spent to get 2 studios. We each would have paid 100% of our own. What we got here for 100% of that money was more each than we would have. We didn't have to pay 100% though. If we both paid 75% of what we would have normally, we're getting almost 200% of what we would have had. So paid a lot less, got a lot more, and actually considerably more than either probably would have done on their own. So the fact that its schedules fit together, financially you paid a lot less than you would have otherwise, it's a win-win. And 4 years we've ironed out any kinks, which were always minor in the operation. And I'll come back to the point you made and that I emphasized back to you is, I don't know why more people don't look at this for more things.
I don't understand it either. It's a no-brainer to me that when you have 2 entities that can save money and improve on what they're doing, It should just be something that happens automatically.
And you know, corporations and schools and so forth do a lot together in terms of volunteers in the school and things like that. So it's not that some relationship isn't going on here, but when you get to the creativity of, you know, if you know, a studio or a lab, maybe a computer lab or some kind of specialty thing that might relate to the company that's in your city, I wonder why we're not looking at that a little differently.
Now, I understand that you recently sat on the bench in the Minnesota Supreme Court and judged some moot court exercises, competition between Hamline and University of Minnesota law students. What was that experience like for you?
Well, first, it was very noteworthy for a couple of reasons. I'm not a lawyer, so when I prepared for that, it was kind of a unique situation, but that wasn't the most interesting to me. The Chief Justice of our moot court was retired Justice Paul Anderson, and to be able to sit next to him.
Not retired until next Friday.
Well, I figure this won't show until after that, but you're quite right.
Great loss, though.
You know, I agree. Fantastic judge. Just, you know, the kind of person that you want in that kind of role. And you know, in the moot court, as the chief judge there, Chief Justice, these students don't understand what they're actually learning from such a guy. He does the same thing, preparation and interrogation, that he would do in the real court. And they are in for such a treat and such an experience.
And he did.
And he does, and he did.
I was there a day before you, and we had
Well,
two other teams.
You were on the bench that day, and I think it's a great experience for the students, and I think that it was a great experience for me to be able to sit next to him. And this is the second year I've done it, where I learn a ton just by listening to how he covers and questions on something that I've also studied, but from a totally different angle. And I find it absolutely remarkable. Sharp mind and really thoughtful, but also friendly in his manner.
And of course, this whole I don't know what you would call it, moot court exercise, was put together by a Thomson Reuters employee, Chang Wang, who is Chinese, who is really quartered here, but who teaches at both law schools. And he's been a guest on this show, and a very
he's phenomenal.
Outstanding
Phenomenal.
individual.
He is. He does a tremendous amount of outreach on the use of our research tools, and does a lot of teaching in the U.S. and also in China about how to use Westlaw and Westlaw Next and those kinds of things. And it's remarkable. I guest lectured in Lucerne, Switzerland, to a class that he was holding there in conjunction with a group, and it's just amazing. He stuns me by his actual energy and his reach. But I think this for me, the court, other than the, I think, great honor of being next to and listening to the rest of the panel along with Justice Anderson, is that I have to really spend a lot of time preparing so I don't look like a dummy, because I have to figure out, these are not things that I've studied. I don't know about the rules. I pretty much don't know anything if it wasn't on Perry Mason.
Actually,
right?
the judges probably spend as much time, however, because in many instances, for instance, they'll get a difficult patent case. None of them are patent lawyers necessarily, and it's a learning experience, but every time you're either in front of the bench or on the bench, it's a learning experience, and that's what they call a hot court, where everybody is prepared, having read the materials before the appellants and the respondents get up to argue. So it was a really interesting experience for me as well.
I think so. And then I was also, I've got to say, you know, I think yours was the same. We had two case run-throughs, 2 hours, two teams each.
Right.
So there are 4 total teams of 6 or 8 students, and I thought the students did an excellent job. It gives me great comfort to see the quality of people that are coming through both of the schools that are involved, and the kind of arguments they can put together. They certainly had done their homework. You know, we were pushing back on all the points, but you know, you're not giving an inch away to them, but you're sitting there going, wow, could that have been me at that age? I don't know. They're pretty darn good.
It's true. And when I went to law school, which was several hundred years ago, we didn't have that opportunity to do moot court. Things have really moved forward remarkably in terms of the practice of law. And we're talking now about Chang Wang being Chinese and being an integral part of Thomson Reuters. Thomson Reuters has become really the world's largest purveyor of information, I think. Not just news, but not just Westlaw, not just
Right.
legal, accounting, otherwise.
Right, accounting, bankers, scientists, lawyers, auditors, compliance officers. The idea is that any of these professionals, to be able to give them the information that they need to do their job better, whether it's rules, regulations, precedent, decisions, expert witnesses, trial information, banker information, things you need to do, mergers and acquisitions, takeovers, all the kinds of things you have to understand and do. We have that information for them so that they can be the best they can be.
And with technology, they have their laptop in front of them. It's at their fingertips, which is just an incredible thing to me. It's hard for me to realize where I was and where technology is. But part of that is that you also have offices in how many countries now?
I think we're at 120 countries where we have offices and we're selling things like that. So it's quite a few. And by the way, Alan, today, you know that box you used to roll with all the banker's box with all those files, roll them into court
Right.
when you're doing your job. They're all on the iPad today. So it's kind of easy, a little easier on your back just to carry your iPad in. And with electronics today, you can actually access Westlaw Next on your iPad too. So you've got everything right there with that device.
Now, a lot of the Thomson Reuters employees from those companies are trained right here in Eagan, however. So
right.
when we say you have 7,500 employees here, how many countries are represented right now, would you estimate?
And my estimation would be between 25 and 30 countries have employees. You know, those countries have people here working for us. Now, in terms of the visitations, people coming in for training or preparing the next product or what have you, that would probably gust up to, you know, in the 50 and 60 range.
And they come in, they get their training here, they're guests of Thomson Reuters. They get to go to Target Field and see the Twins lose. I mean, there's all sorts of benefits that go with coming to the company here.
Well, we all like to go to Target Field. We like to see the on-field product be a little bit better than it's been the last few years. There's no doubt about it. But I think people who've never gone to baseball games or football or hockey really find it fascinating to go. It's just, and the last part of the experience that they ever talk about is who won or lost, because they're not really sure which team is the local team. Anyway,
It's like me going to a cricket match.
that'd be about right. So they go, what they think about is, wow, Target Field, that's a beautiful, you know, that's a beautiful stadium on a summer day. Just a beautiful way to spend a night.
And these people are here for generally how long a period of time before they go back to their
Well, they might
particular
be here
countries?
1 or 2 weeks for various forms of training. We train people in other parts of the world too, but a lot come here for some of the work, and depending on how far away they've come, a lot of people from Asia or parts of Europe might stay for longer than a week. If they're from the US, they're probably here for a week.
Eagan has become really a hub of the corporation, though. It's not the corporate headquarters, but certainly a hub.
Our corporate headquarters is in New York. We're the largest single facility in the company. So it is a large, important hub, if you want to think of it that way.
Now, I know that you are really fascinated with air travel, which you do constantly. And there was a time when you were going for your pilot's license. How's that going?
Well, I haven't flown in the wintertime. I just stopped doing it. Time and cold kept me away. So now that we're into theoretically the springtime and the summer, I'm going to have to pick it up again. I think I'm about halfway through. So far, so good, Alan.
And then you're going to get a job with Delta as a pilot?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't think so. I like my job. I just I think it's, being a little bit of a technical person and math degree, I think things like flying are really interesting because they've got so many things to study and learn about. Study and learn about weather, about navigation, about the electronics on the plane. All of those things are really quite fascinating.
And when I was at the air show last week, I think you were in another country at the time, I was fascinated by the Cirrus plane, which I think would be perfect for me to fly because it has a parachute.
Yeah, and the parachute saved many lives. I guess those have been deployed a few times. Cirrus, of course, is made in Duluth. It's now a Chinese company, but it is I
didn't even know that.
It is a Minnesota manufacturer, and it's known for two things. I think one is the parachute. The other thing is it's a totally glass cockpit, meaning there's none of the old gauges. It's all electronic screens.
And getting into that cockpit, which I did, is really fascinating. It looks like you have like 4 computer screens in front of you.
That's what it is. There's none of the old, what they call steam gauges. So it's a great airplane and very much loved in the state of Minnesota, of course.
Thomson Reuters is always coming up with something new. And I saw an ad in the New York Times in the minute that we have left, amazingly, that was featuring Icon, E-I-C-O-N.
Right.
Not Icon as we know it. What is Icon?
Icon is the product that our investment bankers and our financial analysts use. So our company sells that to the Wall Street people that do the same type of work, M&A bankers, so they can do stock information, investigations about trading, things like that. M&A, it's all about the company information, dynamics about that, about all the underlying measures in the company and the people that are associated with running the company.
Rick King, it's always a pleasure to sit down and talk to you. Before we went on, we said, what are we going to talk about? And we said, we'll find something.
We always do, Alan.
We did. Thanks so much.
All right, thank you, Alan.